Hello, I'm Tom Sinclair. Welcome to another show, another VidBlaster guy show. And boy, did we just trip coming out of the gate on that one. And showed you my chroma key screen. You're not supposed to see that. Oh, no, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. That was terrible. Anyway, this is segment 2 of our show today. And so if you're watching on YouTube, you're like, oh, well, what happened to segment 1? Well, it's right there above us. So you can go back and watch segment 1. But they're two really, the show's kind of standalone because they're two different subjects. Our first segment, we had a great review by Martin Kay of Zen Video in Manchester, England, who was talking about the Magewell USB 3 high definition dongle, kind of an easy cap, 3.0 easy cap for HD. Really nicely done, so you'll want to take a look at that video. But on this show, we are going to talk about the VidBlaster API. Well, what's an API? Well, an API is a language within the software that allows you to control the software if you tell it the right language. So as opposed to, VidBlaster is kind of visually oriented. If it's made of modules, you click the module, it does what you want it to do, it makes that module active or play a video or play an audio or put that camera up on the screen or whatever you want it to do by clicking that. But you can also sort of automate some of that with an API. Now the API, the commands of the API can be introduced into VidBlaster remotely. So I've had situations where I've controlled VidBlaster with my cell phone by pressing buttons on my cell phone. It changed cameras on VidBlaster, and that can happen in the next room or in the next country because it happens over the internet. But today I really want to focus a little bit more on controlling VidBlaster from within VidBlaster using the macro feature. Now let me be really clear about the API and the macros. This is not available in the base version, the home edition, or in the next version up, the Pro edition. It's only available in the two top editions, the Studio edition and the Broadcast edition. So if you got all excited and said, oh, wow, I can't wait to do that. If you've got the Home or the Pro edition, this is just not going to be available to you. I apologize, but that's just kind of the way it is. Now, if you don't have VidBlaster at all, and you're saying, well, what's going on with VidBlaster? I'd like to see this API in action. I'd like to try the macro features. Well, if you download and install the VidBlaster Trial Edition, you can look at all this stuff because the Trial Edition is equal to the Studio Edition, except it's got a little watermark up there, I think, and then another one down there. But other than that, it's fully functional. It'll do everything the regular Studio package will do. Let's see, if you go to forum.vidblaster.com and to the downloads section, you can download the latest beta, which as of today is beta 3.21, or you can go back to the VidBlaster site itself, vidblaster.com, and go to the trial button, and it'll download the latest official release version. I'm not sure which version that one is, but I always like the latest beta, 3.21. That's what we're using for this show today. And by the way, this show is being broadcast 30 frames a second, 864 by 480 resolution, which is what would be considered widescreen standard definition. We're broadcasting it and bringing it to you live through Dacast, D-A-C-A-S-T, Dacast.com. That's my CDN of choice. They don't give me any money. I just like them, so I'll mention them every now and then. And we're using VidBlaster for switching and overlays and videos and the API and all of that. And generally, we'll use Flash Media Live Encoder to encode the stream and send it out to Dacast. But today, and in fact recently, we've been using Wirecast to do that. So we're using Wirecast and VidBlaster simultaneously. And Wirecast, I think, does a better job at encoding, i.e. better meaning takes less CPU resources, gives you the same or better product for less CPU horsepower. So anytime you can economize and save CPU horsepower, you want to, at least until the new run of Intel chips come out in the fall of 2014. Supposedly there's a hex core chip that's going to come out that's going to be priced in the 400s. So if you're thinking about upgrading and you're not that hot to do it immediately, you might want to wait, save a little bit more money, and upgrade to that hex core i7 coming out in the fall. You'll need a new motherboard to do it. You'll be spending some money, but it might be worth it. Might be worth it. So oh boy, I lost my train of thought there for a second. That happens when you get old and feeble-minded. So today we're going to be talking about the API, only available in the studio version or the broadcast version. Oh, and this was a little tip. If you've got the home edition or the home edition or the pro edition, and you've got that registered on your laptop or on your computer, if there's another PC in your house that doesn't have a licensed version of VidBlaster on it, you can download and install the trial edition there and play with the API and the macro functions there and see if it's something that you might be interested in upgrading to at some point in the past. If you are interested in upgrading, it's a manual process. Shoot me an email and I'd be happy to walk you through it. And as a reseller, I can sell it to you and provide you tech support for it. Had a call from somebody this morning that was having some trouble just getting their software registered, and it turned out to be a simple little problem. We got it fixed and they were on their way. But they had to log on to the VidBlaster forum and wait for somebody to respond to their need and then go back and forth with a couple of questions. It might have taken them a couple days to get an answer. So that's what in fact, that's what any VidBlaster reseller can bring to the table, which is that almost immediate tech support. But we don't answer the phone during the show. So if you're calling right now, we've missed your call. Today, macros. Macros allow us to take the standard keyboard and program it to do a variety of VidBlaster functions using the API. Now, I have a test for you guys. This is for the folks in the chat room. I want to do a what do you call it? A trivia. This is VidBlaster API trivia. So we're going to go to the question. Question number 1: what is a pin? And I'm not going to make you guess. It's multiple choice. So let's get the guys in the chat room. I see them out there. They found their pencils and they're finding paper. And so we're going to go, what is a pin? And we've got 3 choices. A pin is either A, an Australian payment system, B, a dynamic binary instrumentation tool, or C, an input, output, or exchange of data. And this would be, the context of all of this is a pin is something that is used in VidBlaster. So what is a pin? Is it A, an Australian payment system, B, a dynamic binary instrumentation tool, or C, an input, output, or exchange of data? And so I can see people out there in the chat room are paralyzed with fear. Andrew says C, but he really likes A. Bob says C, or pain in the neck. And we'll see what other people say. Okay, well, let's take those guys off here. And the answer is really all of the above. How about that? But in the context of VidBlaster, yes, Andrew and Bob are correct. It is C. It's an exchange of data or an input or output. And you're like, okay, Tom, that's the most obscure thing. It's like hobos in space. Oh, did I ever tell you about hobos in space? Real quickly, hobos in space. I had an English professor. I was an English major in college, and he would talk about writing short stories, and that the reader needed to have some concrete things to go on at the beginning of your story, or else you may as well be talking about hobos in space, because nobody knew what in the world your context was. So the context is, yes, indeed, within VidBlaster, C is correct, but actually a PIN is an Australian payment system, and it is also that binary instrumentation tool. But what is a PIN in VidBlaster? Let's go. Well, let's cut to the chase on that one here, and what we're going to do actually is we're going to pull up the VidBlaster help. So let me bring that up to the screen here. And this is what the VidBlaster help. I've actually gotten to this segment by selecting TCP server, and this is under the table of contents. So I click the little plus there, and under the TCP server is the API. So it's a little hidden. You kind of have to stumble around till you get it. And then when we go to the API, it tells us all the API commands and what they do. So we're going to say API, and it's an application programming interface available for Windows. It enables the software to exchange data. Oh, excuse me, it enables other software to exchange data with VidBlaster using TCP, or other software can be located on the same PC, the same network. The API requires the TCP server to be located, to be loaded, but the macro function does not. The API is a powerful feature enabling you to control VidBlaster's operation from any application anywhere in the world. It's indeed true. And then right down here is the answer to our trivia question. A PIN can be an input or an output and an exchange of data in various formats. So, well, let's dive right into it. We've got 5 basic commands: API about, API list, API list to, API read, and API write. And really, all the action, at least from my basic operation of VidBlaster and the macros, have been in API write. So let's pop over there for a second. And API write is basically the command that says, hey, VidBlaster, go do this. And you do this by identifying the module, the PIN of the module, and then a value: on, off, true, false, whatever. So, for example, let's see, I think we've got an example down here. Yeah, here we go. API, effect 1. Well, that's the module, effect module number 1. The PIN is source 1. So if you look at an API module, excuse me, at an effect module, and let's just pull an effect module into the screen there so that you can see it. Well, can I do that? Yeah, I can do that. Hold on a second here. We're just going to extend our desktop over there. And here's an effect module. This is source 1 right here on the left, source 2 on the right, and if you right-click, you can see sources 3 and 4, which I'm not using in this case. Okay, so let's drag that one out of the way. We'll open this back up so that you can see. There we go. So we're saying, hey, VidBlaster, take effect module 1 and set the source as camera 1. Well, that's pretty cool. So we can tell that, and we can tell that to VidBlaster remotely if we're using the API with the TCP server on, or we can have that as part of our macro. Now, coming up in, not really sure when, probably in March, our good friend Alan Bunt, who is the macro king of VidBlaster, will be coming on the show to describe some of the macros he's used, where he can actually, using VidBlaster's macros, he has been able to tell VidBlaster to pre-configure itself for his whatever broadcast he's about to do. Excuse me. Load up every module that needed to be loaded with every source that needs to be loaded, and start and record and stream all of that with a press of, Alan says 4 or 5 buttons. And that's pretty amazing. So looking forward to doing that. So pay attention to this stuff. This is good stuff right here. And don't forget to come back in March and watch how Alan does it. Okay, so we're down here, and we've got the Hey VidBlaster, take an effect module, make source 1, camera 1. All right, well, that's good. But really what we want is for VidBlaster to do some stuff. So let's go to the player right here. This is player pins. And so these are the pins of the player. Now remember, the first is the API write, and then the second is the module, and then the third is the pin. So we're going to say API write, player 1, and then player 1 we have these choices of duration, where it will tell us the duration of a file that's already loaded. It will tell us the elapsed amount of time. It will tell us the name of the file. It will pause, it will play, and it will stop. And all of those 6 commands, those 6 pins, can be controlled on the player. If we go to the camera module, let's see, camera, there's camera right there. We can cut, which is that quick automatic feed to a camera. For example, this is a cut. Pow, 100%. It's not a transition like this. Oops, that wasn't much of a transition. But let's say, how about a transition like that? There you go. That's a transition. But we can tell the camera module, so it would be API write, camera number 3, although you don't use the pound sign, don't use the number sign, and then cut, and then true or on. I think both of those will work. Or in this case, yeah, the value parameter doesn't even count. Let's go back over here so we can see what we're talking about. Yeah, the value parameter is ignored, so we're not worried about a value parameter. We can choose the camera. In our example down here, it says take camera module 1 and set the device for USB 28221. Well, USB 2821 is actually a easy cap of USB frame grabber. We can also do a transition command. So we could say API write, camera 1, transition, and that would be the equivalent of clicking the display or the trans button. Now we can also do a camera in a similar way, is that we can, let's come down to the switcher here, is that we can tell it API write, switcher, program, and in this case, let's see, we need to bring the program, the switcher module in. So let's drag this out for just a second. We're going to bring the switcher module over. Just want to show you that if you haven't seen a switcher module before, that's what it is. The program bus is here at the top. So right now, camera 2 is our active camera, which is a screen capture. These are all the other choices in the switcher for right now. The preview, I'm not using a preview monitor, but in the preview bus, effect 4, which is the shot of me, is in the switch. So if I want to just trans right here, it'll trans between camera 2 and effect 4, and so I can trans back right like that, and I can do the same thing with the cut. That's the switcher, and then I've got some controls over the transition here as to how long it is, that kinds of thing. But let me drag the switcher out of the way. And I can also tell by way of a macro to say API write, switcher, program, and it would be program channel 2. And in this case, it's saying put camera 1 into that. Well, I'm getting you confused. Let's just pull in the macro function right here. This is the macro editing function. And we've got 4 macros already done. Let's do a 5th one. We're going to right click for the editor, and I'll drag the editor in here so you can see. And now I'm just typing. So it's API write space. And I'm going to tell it I want to use the switcher. And I want to, whatever is in program 2, I want to turn that on. Okay. So, and let's just, I'm not sure if I need a true there or not, but let's put it on there just in case. And then we're going to assign this to function key 6. Okay. So let's press function key 6 and see what happens. Nothing. Oh no, did I misspell something? That is a problem sometimes. API write program 2 on. Let's take our true off and see if that was part of it there. Oops, still got a comma there. And we'll go 6. Well, you would think it would work. API write switcher program 2. Oh, you know what? I'm already on camera 2. Well, that's why the macros were going like, dummy, why do you keep pressing the same button? Let's go effect 4, which is program 3, and we'll make that F6. So when we hit F6, there we go. Okay. So I can go back to that one, and let's write another one right here, and we can just type it in if we don't want to use the editor. Switcher. Oh, we got to spell it correctly. S-W-I-T-C-H-E-R, comma, program, and we'll go program 2. That's this one right here on, and we'll make that F7. So when we go F6, it should take us back to that shot. F7 now takes us back to this camera. And the disadvantage of doing it this way is if we change whatever our device is on program 2, then it changes. Now, one other thing we can do, and let's go back to program 3, F6, F6, this shot right here. Let's take that shot and let's add a lower third to it. So we're going to right-click the editor. Let me drag it into the screen so you can see. And we're going to add another line, API write overlay, and overlay number 1 has my lower third in it. So we're going to say on, and then we'll put in true. Again, I don't remember whether that's necessary or not. Now this is all assigned to F6. So when I hit F6, it's going to bring in my camera and the lower third. Now, I remember putting in a feature request a while back for a universal a universal API command where you could turn off every overlay, because when I want to go to my camera number 2, which is the screen capture, if I hit F7, I'll do that, but the lower third stays on. So we need to get that lower third out of there. Yeah, there we go. I've got this macro right there, overlay 1 on, overlay 1 off. But Alan is going to teach us, when he comes on in March, he is going to teach us a really great way to have a kind of a universal turn everything off macro. And so I suspect what it's going to be is basically line after line after line. Turn this off, turn that off, turn everything off, 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 all the way down, so that there's no chance that something accidentally got left on, like this lower third, you know, might have gotten left on when we went to this shot right here. We would want that not to be the case. The commands they're not easy to use. I'm not going to say it like that. But once you kind of understand the format, what I think is called the syntax, once you understand the syntax, and that the syntax is, can we turn that, there we go. The syntax is API write. That's what we're telling VidBlaster. We want to write. We want to use a module, a overlay 3. We want to turn it on, and that's true. Or API write, the module is the switcher. On the switcher, whatever's in program 3, turn it on. API write, the overlay 1, whatever's in overlay 1, turn it on. And that's F6. F6, boom, there we go. So that's a kind of a quick and dirty on macros. Now, macros, let's see if we can use our macro to, there we go. And then we need to turn it off. And let's drag this macros thing out of the way for just a second so we can go back to the switcher pins. We've got the audio player, the camera, effects, the IP decoder, the overlay, the player, PowerPoint, the recorder, replay 1 and 2, replay controller, replay source, scoreboard, still store, streamer, and switcher all have their pins. There's even a pin to execute a macro. And then there are output pins. So there are lots of ways to control VidBlaster. We're focusing mostly on the macro section of it today. Let's see if we can get, I keep punching buttons on the keyboard, and what I realized as I was doing that is the VidBlaster help menu is separate and distinct from VidBlaster. So I was trying to control the help menu by my keyboard shortcuts instead of VidBlaster. So VidBlaster does have to be the active program if that's the case. So you'll want to make sure you've got that right. And one of the guys in the chat room is saying that you can, through this execute command, you can basically nest your macros. That is to control a macro from within a macro, or control a series of macros from within a macro. So there are lots of fun things to do with it. So if you can, get the trial version, play around with it. It's going to be a great way to automate VidBlaster with repetitive, the kinds of things that you do all the time that you would prefer to be able to use a keyboard or a control surface for. Now you can use a separate control surface if you want in VidBlaster. With the macros and the API, you can use a variety of USB control surfaces. The Nano, what was it? The Core Nano Control is a $50 MIDI device that you can set up and program to do anything you want to in VidBlaster using the buttons on that. I look forward to, and I haven't done it, but the time is coming now where I need to get it in line to control the in and out points in the instant replay with VidBlaster and be able to pull it back and slow it down using some knobs on a controller as opposed to using the mouse in VidBlaster. So stick with us as we begin to explore that. That's going to be a lot of fun. So coming up in the future, we've got Alan Bunt that's going to be on the show. We've got some other guests that we're talking with now to come in and talk different parts of VidBlaster. Coming up, we'd hope to start in February, but it looks like it's going to be March before we start our new show, which will be dedicated more to streaming and broadcasting in general, and not so specific to VidBlaster. So it'll include a lot of software reviews, hardware reviews, and interviews with folks that are doing neat things all over the world, we expect. Appreciate you tuning in today. If you tuned in live, hang around for the after show. Again, we've got fudge and brownies, so it ought to be a lot of fun. I'm Tom Sinclair, for that VidBlaster guy. We'd love to have you join us live on Wednesdays, 3 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock in London, and anytime you want to on YouTube. So leave us a comment on YouTube, shoot us an email, follow us on Twitter, whatever. It sounds good to you. So that's it. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.